Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we are going to be dropping our first installment of the weekly meta breakdown for Standard Best of 3. If you are a Best of 1 gamer, want to check out that, we dropped the video as well, so that's up on the playlist. We'll get to the other formats as soon as the data is made available. So normally with these, we get the data from UntapGG, companion tool that runs alongside Arena's client. Tracks your win rates, gives cool stats. If you want to use Untap, link is in the bio. It's still pretty early for best of 3 formats. It's only been about a day and a half. So we are only going to be looking at the kind of metagame distribution that they've had thus far. But we're going to be looking at 2 MTGO leagues this time to see what people are bringing to the MTGO leagues and kind of go from there. I'll do another installment in a couple days, same with best of 1, just to see as it evolves. In the first few days of the meta, things are all up in the air. People are figuring it out, especially with rotation. There's a lot of moving parts here with people trying out new things. As always, the first week of a new set, be mindful. People are going to hype up stuff saying this is broken, ban this, yada yada. You can see with early access times, just if you're limited on wildcards, be patient. You don't want to kind of spend it all on like a niche deck. Try to find cards with overlaps, stuff like that. We'll see like decks that were popular before are putting up similar results. Something like Boros Convoke, for example. So you can kind of play your old decks while you build up new decks as well. So I'll put the deck list, timestamp it, kind of go from there. So we have the win rate of the day, or actually, I guess the popularity. Golgari midrange is based on Untap, the most popular deck at about 14, almost 15%. Orzhov Bats at about 10, and then Boros Convoke at about 8. We could kind of plug in some of the other details. If we look at like Orzhov here, it's still fairly early into the new cycle. We also are getting some of like the old data, so it's a little weird time to look at trend stuff. But we're going to jump into the leagues, kind of go over some stuff that folks are trying out. So by far, Boros Convoke's been the most popular deck from the MTGO leagues. It's got the most placement. There's kind of tweaks here and there. Notably, so you'll still see have like your Imidanes, Knight Errant, Novice Inspectors, Nurturing Pixie is being played as a one of. You're seeing the frontline, Yodian Frontliner as a way to kind of fill that void of another one-drop artifact enabler for the Gleeful Demolition. With the mana base, you're seeing Reckless Biovac being included, but you still have like your caverns and stuff like that. Sideboard, just various kind of tax pieces, removal, grindier matchups. You have Urbrass Forge, Hand Hate, kind of mixed into there. Some of the versions as well, you're seeing a one of Legion Extruder. So we see that in this version here. Kind of tweaks along the edges. This one's on 4 case. This first one was on 2 War Leaders calls. So just some numbers are kind of moving around based on people's preference, but we see fairly similar sideboard plans, Invasions, Anointed Peacekeepers, Urbrass Forge kind of all mixed into there. We then have a blue-white. So this one's from Sane. So these all got 5-0. So it's a blue-white artifacts deck. We have Cryptic Code in here, Dusk Rose, as well as spring-loaded Saw Blades as removal options. You have the Schooners. So it kind of plays similar to the Simic Cookies in a way. You have some evasive creatures, Kitesail Larcenist, Norn's Inquisitor can make you Phyrexian tokens, which are artifacts. The Novice Inspector, Spyglass Siren, Steel Seraph gives you evasion and lifelink. Zoetic Glyph. So you kind of have that Zoetic Glyph, animate, give it flying, kind of punch in there. Case of the Flitch Falcon is another way to give you an evasive, fairly large body, being a 4/4, if not bigger. Sideboard, just like Werefox Bodyguard as some disruption. Tashana, you're going to see Lauren a lot against like Leyline Binding style effects. Temporary Lockdown is still in the format, so it's something you might want to hit like that. And then this version gives you access to some counter spells, Destroy Evil as kind of removal. From there, we go to a blue-black splash red kind of Grixis control deck. So this is from Neb12R. So this one's playing a full 4 of Otteral. So it makes it some tokens, can get bigger by playing non-creatures, draws discards, and then gives your instants and sorcery Storm. In terms of the creature package, 1 of Alcazats, 1 of Preacher, 1 of Shieldred, and then 4 Thunder Trap Trainers. So this is the new kind of Augur of Bolas. So the creature enters the battlefield, you look at the top 4, you reveal a non-creature, non-land, put it into your hand, and put the rest of the bottom of your library in any order. You can also Offspring this, so for 6 mana you get 2 copies. A little bit expensive on the Offspring side. Some of the other offsprings, you know, are 1, 2 mana. This one being 4 mana. But you can kind of late game just 6 mana, 2 bodies, draw 2 cards in a way. Not terrible rate, all things considered. So kind of plays into that effect there. So we have that. And then just basically removal. Bitter Triumph, cut down, go for the throats, long goodbyes, deduce for card advantage, phantom interference, and 3 steps ahead is flexible removal, and then deadly cover up as a sweeper. One thing to note, we got Fable Passage, so you're going to be seeing likely a light splash more often, something similar to this, where you can just fetch your kind of splash color. Graveyard Hate, just various removals in the sideboard. In the Grindier mirrors, you have Outrageous Robbery. Even in Control mirrors, just kind of steal a whole bunch of stuff from them. More creatures to ground out like the ground against like aggro decks. Tashana for activated abilities kind of effect. Another Boros Convoke deck kind of wraps it up. So this was from the league on July 31st. We kind of port over. We have, again, just as we're kind of going through, more of the Boros Convoke deck. So if you, like I said, if you're still getting the cards from the new set, this is pretty much all old cards. Skrell being played in here. Toski is welcome for some grind advantage. Smash to Dust, flexible card here. Again, just all cards that exist, so you can play your deck without having to use new cards right now, which allows you some time to build up your collection. Again, there's a lot of Convoke, like I said. So we got a Grixis, not Grixis, a Jund. It might just be Gruul. Just Gruul. I saw a Jund version that was playing the Vein Ripper in this, but this one here is a Calamity combo kind of deck. So it's a Gruul ramp deck in a way. So you have Glimpse the Core to put lands into play, some removal, Brotherhood's End, Obliterating Bolt, and you want to ideally do Smuggler Surprise, cheat into play like Calamity, and then like a Vaultborn Tyrant, or like Terror the Peaks, make a copy of Terror, and then just smash into your opponent for a lot of damage. Outcaster Trailblazer draws you cards, a Vaultborn Tyrant can draw you cards, Trumpeting Carnosaur kind of free cast, Roxanne is removal and ramp all kind of mix. So it's like a Gruul Timmy deck in a way. Just smash big creatures. For the Hood's End, for more sweepers. The Krenko's Buzz Crusher is kind of interesting. It's a way to kind of blow up creature lands. I guess against Domain and stuff, it slows them down a turn perhaps, but they play a lot of basics too. It's not like there's Nykthos in the format, so this one's an interesting inclusion. Against heavy discard, aggressive decks, you have Bailots. More just removal, counterspell decks, you have Tyrannix Rex. Roll back for Graveyard Hate, pick your poison as a full removal spell. Again, Boros Convoke. Then we have Gruul, kind of prowess, kind of similar to the Pioneer version. A couple new cards in here. We have Emberheart Challenger, my favorite card from the set. 2 mana, 2/2 haste, prowess, Valiant. So for those unfamiliar with Valiant, it's kind of like Heroic, but it's only once per turn. But it gives you the upside of being able to target it with abilities as well. So when it gets targeted for once a turn, you get to exile top card of your library and play it till the end of the turn. So it's virtual card advantage. Also, Heartfire Hero gets bigger when you target it for the first time. When it dies, deal damage to a target opponent. So you get to take advantage of the extra mice with Might of the Meek, just card you can cycle. Gives any of the creatures trample, but then if it's a mouse, it also gives them power boost, and it just draws you a card. Slick Shots, Questing Druids, as well as Monastery Swift Spear. Audacities, Snakeskin Veils for protection, Shock, basically replacing Play with Fire in these lists, Monstrous Rage, and then a Giant Growth. Grand Portal, because we're desperate for untapped lands, which is 8 pain lands, hurts the heart. Sideboard, Jaya for grindy matchups, along with the Urbrass Forge. Bolts as removal, pick your poisons for like Domain, Atraxa as flyers, Witchstalker for like the Golgari decks, the bigger kind of creature decks. Then we have Blue-White Soldiers. Yes, that Brothers War deck is back, and adding while it's a mouse, it's also a soldier. So the Flowerfoot Swordmaster, it's basically 2 bodies in one that you can kind of play out. The Valiant gives your mice a boost when it gets targeted. There's not really many ways to target in this deck. It's really like the Zephyr Sentinel that can put the counters on it by returning it to hands, but you don't really have mice to pay off. So it's more, if you have multiples, Yodian could technically target it as well. Warden draws you some cards. The Valiant Veteran in here gives your creatures a boost, Resolute Reinforcements, Recruitment Officers, Knight Errant to kind of go wide in there, try some cards. Fortified Beachhead is a very powerful effect to take advantage of. It's just another untapped dual land for this creature deck. Cavern for obviously counters. We have a number of flash creatures in here, so No More Lies, Get Lost play nicely with it as well. Sideboard, we're seeing for a lot of these white decks, things like Toskia is welcome for card advantage, Lauren to blow up stuff, Invasion is hand hate, Protect the Negotiators is more counters. Nettle Guard, just so kind of the creature that comes into play, the 3/1 that then can be sacrificed to destroy an artifact or enchantment, notably Soldier type as well, so plays into the theme of the deck. Then we have black-white kind of ETB value, mid-rangey kind of deck. So Tithing Blade as removal, Braids kind of playing into the theme of the deck, just sacrificing a whole bunch of stuff. This one's from Gatto Pellin. Guardian of Girapur as a way to blink your stuff. To get extra value. Hostile Negotiator, Hand Hate, Nizumi, Hand Hate. So lots of ways to hit your opponent's hand. Novice Inspector for card advantage. Gives you multiple things to sack to Braids. Nurturing Pixie lets you rebuy any of these effects. Sarah Paragon lets you recast them from your graveyard. Then like Hopeless Nightmare. Temporary Lockdown's an interesting one. You can kind of technically put your stuff under the lockdown, then blow up your lockdown or bounce your lockdown and reset all your ETBs. It's kind of cool. And then Tiny Bones joins up. Kind of similar effects. Lots of ways to eat up your opponent's hand, including Duress main. Sideboard, Hand Hate, Artifact Enchantment Hate, Graveyard Hate. More lockdowns for aggressive decks, Virtual Loyalty to kind of grind out instant speeds effects, Shelly. So lots of just kind of mid-rangey goodness that can attack your opponent. So that's it, kind of early season with the decks. I think there was one other that I might have missed. There was one I missed. I knew I missed one. I'm like, this one was a cool one. So Jacob Pablo. So it's a Izzet kind of tempo deck. So Mockingbird in here comes as a copy of any creature equal to the mana total mana spent. So if you pay 1 mana, it copies a 1 mana spell. Pay 2 mana, it copy 2 mana. You have Storm, Catch Mentor, Haste Prowess, reduces the cost of instant sorceries, Thunder Trap Trainer, like we mentioned, Augur Bolus style effect. Then we have Valley Floodcaller. Flash, 3 mana, 2/2. You may cast non-creature spells as though they had flash. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, basically in this case, your otters untap. So we have Otter. So it works really nice with things like Stoke the Flames or Meeting of the Minds, anything with Convoke, because you have to just recast your stuff. You're basically tapping and untapping your creatures, which is kind of cool. Artistic Refusal is another Convoke style effect. So really taking advantage of the Convoke. Phantom Interference is counters. 3 Steps Ahead is counters. Torch of Tower is removal. You have your Ral in here. So you kind of really chain things together. We also have one of the new classes, Storm Chaser's Talent. So you get an Otter with Prowess for stage 1. When it goes to stage 2 for 4 mana, return target instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand. And then for 6 mana, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you create an Otter. So you can kind of storm off in that respect. Another cool one here in terms of the deck itself. So that is it for the week. Hope you enjoy. Like I said, I'll be back in a couple days once we get the untapped stats, but I want to share some best of 3 lists for folks as well. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you have a great one, and catch you next time.